You're listening to the DCAU Review, hosted by Cal and Liam, streaming on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and at DCAUreview.com. Now, here's today's episode.
Welcome to episode 41 of the DCAU Review. I am your host, Cal, and alongside me is the DCAU Review Twitter guru. That's right, it's the other host, Liam. Liam, welcome to this week's episode of the DCAU Review.
Yeah, we got another fun one. We're introducing another sort of really memorable Batman Beyond villain. He sort of rhymes. We talked about this with some of the other characters. He sort of rhymes with like a scarecrow type. Of course, we're talking about Spellbinder, the episode we're reviewing today, Spellbound. Kind of rhymes with like a scarecrow type, or you know, if you want to use the Spider-Man villain equivalent, like a Mysterio type or something. You know, there's illusions and scary stuff and wacky imagery.
More psychological.
Right.
Torture of
it's not a guy that Terry can just run up and brawl with, like we talked about last week, with where you know that villain was much more of a physical threat.
Right.
So yeah, it's a really interesting episode. It again allows Terry to kind of struggle with something that he hasn't really come into contact with anything quite like this before, and so it's him struggling with it, and Bruce sort of trying to coach him through it. And then, you know, you wrap that up in a story with a lot of like crazy imagery and all these different hallucinations that people are having. It's really memorable.
Yeah, I like this episode. We can get into plot like we always start with. So the plot of it, as you mentioned, so there's some mysterious happenings. You kind of get the inkling sort of at the beginning that maybe the school psychologist isn't on the up and up, but they don't make it super obvious that it's him. But there's a guy walking around in a red and black suit, which I cannot wait to talk about that in visuals. But guy walking around in a suit, he's kind of putting people in trances where they think they're going on these adventures and going through these hyper stressful situations. You have Chelsea at the beginning and goes through the Amazon, and she's trying to get a statue to destroy it.
Yes.
Not sure why you would destroy a statue that you just hacked through the jungle to get, but it doesn't have to make sense, I guess.
Right.
And then the next scene is a gentleman who's, I guess he's a fashion designer.
It's not exactly made clear, but you see different fashion like posters on his wall, and then he's the thing that he's clutching that he thinks is like his downed fellow soldier is like a dress on a mannequin. So yeah, I guess he's some sort of fashion designer,
fashionista. I missed where they explained why the dress was worth so much, but I think it was in the conversation between the security guards and him.
Well, they do also. It's the posters feature the name Princess Audrey, which of course is the name of the princess that Wonder Woman befriends in the episode Maid of Honor. So it's kind of a retroactive Easter egg. So we can maybe assume eventually we know she becomes the Queen of Casnia later on in the series. So that to me tells me maybe it was her dress. We don't know. We don't know for sure. That's sort of a retroactive... but either way, it's sort of a cool retroactive Easter egg. We talked about that with a few other examples where...
Yeah, it was a good catch by you.
You can call back to stuff that hasn't technically happened yet. It's kind of cool the way that the people that made the show that came after this, put a few threads there to just connect it to that future that they'd set up.
Spot on. Yeah, that was a good find by you. So then the third and final, the third victim is one of Terry's other high school buddies'
I don't think
mom.
we ever see this guy again, do we?
Did they give him a name?
Probably, but...
Yeah, it was high school friend, his mom is getting married. So they start seeing these fantastical or high-stress situations where they feel like they have to get rid of something, or they're searching for something in order to basically hand it over to Spellbinder. And, we learn that he's sort of... he's not a a B&E artist. He's not breaking and entering himself.
Right.
He kind of gets off almost on controlling the people that he does, which adds an interesting dynamic to Spellbinder as a character. Is he has a motivation for torturing the people that he does.
Yes.
And
it feels very Batman. Like it feels again, we talk about it's Terry's getting his own set of villains, but they all have that sort of authentically Batman motif where he talks about being like he's had to listen to these rich kids' problems for all these years, and while he's been so criminally underpaid in his view, and he just couldn't take it anymore, and so he's like, well, apparently he knew how to hypnotize people,
right?
So he's like, well, might as well put this to use and get back at all these rich people that have underpaid me for so long.
Yeah, I would say the one thing that I didn't quite get, and maybe I missed it, but I didn't quite understand how he got the technology to be able to put these people under spells. It didn't really... I mean, he has a motivation, and he's clearly a very smart guy, but there wasn't a whole lot of explanation as to where the technology came from, or why these... why everyone is susceptible to it. Is there something that would keep you from being susceptible to it? So that was a little bit of a plot hole, I thought. I think it's fine. I think that there are some things though that don't make a super ton of sense. But it's not a bad episode. It's a, like you said, it's an interesting way to bring that psychological fear, adrenaline type villain, a la Scarecrow, into the Batman Beyond universe without doing a direct copy and paste. So my score for plot was 6 out of 10. What about you?
Mine was also 6 out of 10.
Get out of here.
I think it's good. And not to its detriment, but it is pretty basic. Mm-hmm. They didn't exactly reinvent the wheel here. Villain hypnotizes these people to steal for him. Batman himself is now, it's very similar to like, Scarecrow's using fear gas on people, and then Batman gets hit with the fear gas. So it's the same kind of thing. So you're not reinventing the wheel, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it is still pretty basic. So I thought 6 out of 10 was a solid score for it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Anything else on plot?
Nothing that really stands out. Like I said, I like it. There's a little bit at the end where we get Terry meets Barbara Gordon for the first time. Mm-hmm. She comes into the school to investigate Chelsea's throwing out the statue or whatever, mm-hmm. and then she has a direct conversation with him at the end because Terry captures Spellbinder at Wayne Manor. So they have like a direct confrontation with her kind of giving the stink eye to Bruce as she's she's obviously very much aware that Terry is the new Batman, but isn't necessarily letting on that she knows yet.
Right. I think my one complaint, and we mentioned, is that the end is very abrupt. It's true. It's very strange. It's a very strange ending. I mean, it's resolved. Terry defeats Spellbinder. There's not a lot of combat that happens. Spellbinder kind of kicks his butt for 10 minutes.
Terry's fighting invisible zombies, and you do have a lot of flashbacks, and we can get to this a little bit more in visuals of where or not flashbacks, but you go to the cave, mm-hmm. and you have like the video link where Bruce is basically seeing through Terry's eyes, and of course the hypnotism isn't affecting the actual cameras. Right. So Bruce is trying to basically like be Terry's eyes and ears because Terry can't actually see what's happening. Right. So that's kind of interesting, and to keep cutting back to that is kind of interesting. Like I said, we can talk a little bit more about that in visuals. But yeah, You're right as far as actual like physical. Terry kind of wrestles with the old guy, and he has to save the Jared, by the way, is his classmate's name. Okay. His Jared's mother from being run over by a train, which she thinks is a giant bug, but not a lot of action to be in a traditional sense, at least. Agreed, especially coming off an episode last week where you did have a lot of brawling. Yes, between Terry and the coach, and Terry and the Merce. Okay, all right. Let's move on to our next category. Why don't we head right to animation visuals? What were your thoughts? I think this is really, really good. Like all of the different. All the different hallucinations they do, they start off with one with Chelsea's where she's cutting through the jungle, and then it'll cut back to what she's actually doing as she's just walking through her house. There's a lot of interesting shadow work where you just, her face and her body are almost entirely in shadow. You can just see her eyes, and you sort of there's a shot of Spellbinder sort of peeking in through the window while she's walking through. It's really atmospheric. It's almost kind of horror movie-ish. And then later, the Jared's mother's sees all these crazy insects, and I'd have to look this up to confirm it, but I would bet that Glenn Murakami had a hand in that scene, especially because there's those creature designs look like they walked, the insect designs look like they walked right out of the Teen Titans show. Yeah. but it's really well done, and their bugs are really like ugly and creepy looking.
Gross, yeah, disgusting.
And then later, the zombies come up when Terry's being when Terry's trying to fight Spellbinder, and he gets blasted with the hypnotism eyeball again.
Right.
And he's fighting these zombies, and it's really atmospheric all the way to the end, where he basically Spellbinder almost falls off the cliff at Wayne Manor, and Terry has to catch him. And as he catches him, he grabs him by the wrist, which I guess shatters the whatever the device is.
Yeah.
So it's like, they do some really cool things. And then I guess the other visual thing, and I'll throw it over to you to talk about it, is just Spellbinder's design itself.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. I think we talked about this during the Dead Man's Hand episode, but this character was rife for a action figure.
Yes.
Like, it is just a super cool design, and to me, it's a travesty that he has not been made into an action figure yet. We talked about I think probably in the first episode with Blight, just the different outstanding design work that the Batman Beyond Rogues Gallery has.
Yeah.
And being able to set itself apart from Batman, from the traditional Batman villains, but still create... I mean, if you look at the traditional Batman Rogues Gallery, what stands out from them is their design work. You have, great character development, certainly, too.
Sure.
But you can put pictures of Batman's Rogues Gallery up, and we talked about this, I think, on the first episode, and people will probably be able to identify the Joker and the Riddler and, probably Two-Face, and, just from what their visuals look like. So to be able to create a unique but memorable, if you've spent any time watching these Batman Beyond episodes, a unique but memorable design for a character that is completely different than anything that came before it, while still feeling familiar enough to be like, yeah, that's a Batman villain there.
They still feel very DC.
Absolutely. So Spellbinder is no different. Like, it's simple. He's wearing a morph suit. He's wearing a morph suit with a spiral on it. I mean, it's not something that's unique.
It's not
off the wall crazy. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because Spellbinder was a character that existed in the I believe in the 50s and 60s and some of the like Dick Sprang era Batman tales, but he was again a very over the top sort of, more on the side of like a Crazy Quilt looking villain in that era, whereas this again you redesign him, a character that was never used obviously in the original Batman, and you redesign him completely to be used here. And it's sleek and it's to the point. Yeah, and it's not too busy, but it's still, as you mentioned, so striking.
And it jumps off the screen. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a guy that's supposed to be like hanging in the background. It draws attention to him. I was kind of chuckling during the wedding scene where there's just there's all this madness that's happening around it, and there's this guy in a morph suit walking around. Like, people are running panic, chasing the bride around as she's running out of the wherever they held the ceremony. But there's this guy walking around in a morph suit, nobody's really paying attention to him. But with that said, though, the character design is awesome. Like you already mentioned, the different hallucinations and the work that's done in that. You talked about the shadow work before we went on there. You mentioned while we were watching the episode the shadow work that's done in the war scene, where you don't ever really see what it's a nondescript war. They made it that way on purpose.
It's a little Vietnam-y, like there's jungles and napalm being sprayed down and stuff, but they made it very general. You don't really see the guys' faces. That would leave you as like, oh, if this was me and I was hallucinating this, I'd be terrified of these guys that you can't really see their faces and they're coming at me holding guns and stuff. So I think that the animation was great. The design work is fantastic in this episode. Another thing that you mentioned when we were watching is the scene where Terry was hallucinating. He finally wakes up as he's falling, and the suit gets ripped up, and it's the first time we see the circuitry sort of for the inside of the bat suit, which you see it when he plugs into the Batmobile. Yes, but you really see it, and there's another episode later on where we see a lot more of that. But so I actually gave visuals a 10 out of 10. All right,
what about you?
Yeah, I went 9 out of 10. I think they're really, really excellent, and it's again those little things that just set these cartoons apart from some of the other superhero cartoons that came before or after it. It's just those little extra flourishes in detail and design. Okay, like again, I keep going back to the one with the bugs, but it's like that could have been really generic, and you could have just put giant scorpions and bumblebees and stuff in that, and it would have been fine. But the real that little extra mile to make the bugs look even more terrifying and more alien, really sells the fear and sells the terror that Jared's mom is going through in that scene. So it's just those little extra miles that they went to, just tremendous work.
Absolutely. All right, so why don't we move on to music, Liam? Music in this episode, another strong episode. I don't think so. I don't know. You can tell me what you think, but my thoughts on the music as far as the way that it plays in Batman Beyond is, and we mentioned last week in our episode in The Winning Edge, that it sets the tone a lot of times for the scenes, and it usually sets a very frantic pace. It creates this sort of, almost like a heart palpitation, like the intensity is being turned up now. Batman's in a battle with somebody, or Batman's running from something, or Batman's running towards something. It's not used in the same way I think that Batman the Animated Series score was, or even Superman the Animated Series. It's more of a tone setter as opposed to something that is supposed to stand out. With that said, there is again the use of the Batman Beyond theme as sort of a pivotal part in one of the scenes that's pretty good. But I thought music was solid. I think looking at it now and kind of understanding the purpose that they use the music for has kind of made me rethink how I judge the music in these episodes. So I went ahead and gave music a 7 out of 10 for this episode. You?
And I also gave music a 7 out of 10. Just a reminder, we don't talk about our scores before we go on the air.
We have not.
But we are related. That's our disclaimer.
By birth, no less.
Yes. So sometimes that's just going to happen. Although it doesn't happen as often as you might think it would. But at least not the exact match. We're usually within a point or two of each other. But it's phenomenal. I thought also, it's like we talked about in some of the earlier episodes where the shifts in type of music don't really work. Like I know you have your hatred for the acoustic guitar.
For the heck that.
But for this episode, like during even that final 4 or 5 minutes when he's fighting Spellbinder, in the woods outside of Wayne Manor, you have like really atmospheric horror movie
it's
strings.
an organ.
Yes, and then when the zombies come up, there's like Tales from the Crypt type organ music. And then when Terry sort of snaps out of it and he's like, I got him now, the Batman Beyond theme starts to play, and it feels starts to feel very triumphant, and you get amped watching it. Like it's really, really well done. And so the different types of music and them not being afraid or feeling like we can only do rock music because this is the Teenage Batman show. Like being able to go back to sort of more classic atmospheric strings and, as you mentioned, the organ, and then going to the hard rock when you're doing your more traditional action scenes. I think that really helps the show in that way.
I agree. Yeah, I'll be interested to see. We're now 9 episodes into this series or so. So I'll be interested to see as we progress whether that continues, if they change things up. But yeah, I'm with you. Clearly, we are on the same page. If we both get the same score. All right, last but shall we say not least will be our voice actors, Liam. Who are our major players this week? Anybody of note?
So we have John Cipher as Dr. Ira Billings / the Spellbinder. Kind of a character actor. He looking up his IMDb page, he had a lot of like 1 episodes on a lot of famous shows. He was on Dallas. He's been on Law and Order. He's been on The Love Boat. Like, so he wasn't necessarily a regular actor on a lot of stuff, but he was an actor on like everything.
John Cipher, an actor
from the 70s to I believe they call them character actors. Is what they like to be called. But so he has, veteran actor. He actually, I believe he's still alive. There's no death listed, but he actually hasn't worked in about 15 years. So hopefully he's just enjoying his retired life. And but yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, he's fine.
They put a little bit of an effect on his voice when he's in the Spellbinder suit. It's kind of echoey and sort of booms a little bit more. But I thought he did a solid job. You have Omar Gooding as Terry's friend Jared, he's fine, doesn't have a lot to do, but and then you had we got a little bit of Stockard Channing as Barbara Gordon, as we mentioned, her first direct contact with Terry. Doesn't have a lot to do here. She sort of questions.
Her big episodes come later on.
Right, exactly. So not a lot to say. Obviously, Stockard Channing was on the West Wing, and she was in Grease and has been around for a very long time in the acting world. But she does a solid job for what's asked of her. But she obviously it's just of note because this is the first time we get to see these characters interact.
Sure.
First time she and Bruce come face to face in this series. I believe they talked on the phone in an earlier episode, but this is kind of the first time we see them.
Correct.
Their direct interactions, which obviously once you know the past, the history of these characters.
Let's not talk about it.
Well, not even that. Just how it all ended for Bruce with all of his former proteges.
Correct.
And lovers.
Oh God, you had to say it.
Yep. There's a little more weight to it then if you know what's coming later on.
Sure.
Yeah, I give voice acting 8 out of 10. I think it's really strong. It's again a lot of Will Friedle and Kevin Conroy this week. Terry's just roasting Bruce left and right in this episode, talking about how he collects troubled kids. He
asked if he's still. He radios him, asks if he's still alive.
Yes, and
you alive, Wayne? Oh
yeah,
God.
I was like, dang.
Yeah,
Terry's just roasting him, and then I thought Kevin Conroy did a good job, as we mentioned during that last scene where Terry is kind of flying blind, and Bruce is trying to be his eyes and ears. I thought that he did a really good job. Just really strong one of the stronger Kevin Conroy performances I think we've gotten in Batman Beyond so far. Yeah,
there's some good opportunity for him to flex his protective, and that's kind of what his character is known for in this series. Is he's the watcher, as it were.
Yes.
He's the eyes and ears in the back of Terry's head. So he literally gets to do that when Terry can't see the reality in front of him in this episode. He gets to act on that. So I think, of course, we always say it's no surprise. Kevin Conroy, really good.
Shocking.
What he does. My score, I gave voice acting a very different 7 out of 10. I think that, we didn't really... My only one... I think we... Spellbinder was fine. I think we just didn't get quite enough of him. He gets one sort of like exposition at the end as he's hitting Terry in the head with rocks to explain why he is doing what he's doing.
Right.
But you don't really get... You don't get a chance in this episode, at least, for him to flex any sort of vocal muscle. Not to be a detriment, but I thought that it could have helped maybe bump the score up a little bit. But I just gave it a 7 out of 10 because of that.
It's really not a bad score.
Definitely not. All right, so I think that brings us to the end of our...
Oh, there it is. Haven't heard it in a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's been a while. That is, of course, our bonus point sound effect, Liam, which I guess means you must have a bonus point. Is that correct?
I do. My +1 is for the scene where Terry has been hypnotized and he's going in and he thinks he's on like some sort of shopping game show.
Right.
And as he's stuffing all of Bruce Wayne's valuables into a sack, and he's just running around Bruce's living room, just shoving various priceless vases and trophies. I guess anything made of gold.
Right.
And Bruce has to try, and Bruce sort of like tries to grab him, and Terry shoves him off. So Bruce's way of stopping Terry is Terry's like on one side of the fireplace. So Bruce throws his cane. It gets caught, so like the end of the cane is sticking out of the fireplace. Terry trips over it, and then just to make sure that Terry has snapped out of it, Bruce just gives him the old pimp hand, the old backhanded slap to the face.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
And then he kind of smiles and goes, "Oh, I see you were telling tales at school," or something like that. So,
that's pretty fun.
It's so great. And again, just we don't get to see it a lot, but getting to see Old Man Bruce still show that he's still pretty darn capable for a guy his age is pretty cool to see.
Agreed. Yeah. It's a great scene. If you look one up on YouTube, I would suggest finding that one. It's a great little scene. Also, you get a little Batman versus Batman action.
Yeah.
In there. So
yeah.
Always cool to see that. All right, Liam. Well, I guess that wraps us up. We are headed towards the end of our episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As we say every week, we're so grateful that you would take time to listen to us talk about cartoons. If you like what you hear, we would love for you to give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Not necessarily an easy thing to do, but if you don't mind taking the time out, we don't have a Patreon or anything that we set up to ask for money for this. But your 5 minutes of your time would be great enough if you would just give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Kind of gets more people out there the opportunity to hear us talk, which is all we want in life. We just want more people to hear us talk.
Exactly. That's all anyone wants,
that's right.
We just want to be heard.
We just want to be heard by everyone. But seriously, yeah, we appreciate the people that have done that already and that listen. Don't forget to give us some feedback. We've had a lot of interaction the last couple weeks, some controversial opinions and thoughts on things. We would love to hear your thoughts on the Spellbinder episode. Fan, not a fan, thoughts on the character of Spellbinder himself. Tweet your thoughts. Liam, they can tweet you at DCAU Review on Twitter.
Yes, they can. That's where we do all of our interaction, because that's the only platform we have that allows us.
It's free. It's a free website. That's
Correct.
what we love about Twitter.
Definitely head to at DCAU Review. We post the new episodes every week. We've also started trying to post sort of shorter audio clips, just to, if you're a newer listener, I know asking you if you've never heard a show to donate 30 minutes of your time to a show you've never heard can be a tall task sometimes. So we're starting to put up a few little clips, just so you can kind of get a taste of it, and hopefully those will get shared a little bit, and they already have been. And we thank you to those who do like and retweet those, because it does just help us get a few additional ears and eyes on our stuff, which we appreciate.
Absolutely.
And I do want to mention, I mentioned this on Twitter this week, we're going to announce what we're going to be doing in March today.
Yes.
And we did a little deliberation, and of course we found out over the last couple of weeks that the Justice League versus Fatal 5, which ain't no convincing me that's not a DCAU movie, by the way, at this point. Between the javelins, the Metro Towers, the designs, and the voice actors.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty much at this point confirmed that it's within the DCAU continuity.
So we'll definitely be reviewing that probably the week it comes out.
Which should be March 25th by...
I believe so. It's definitely at the end of March.
Yep.
And so we thought to build up to that, sort of do our countdown to that, we'd start reviewing some more Justice League.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily going to be going in order with those, just because, much like with Superman, it doesn't really feel like you have to, because the stories, with the exception of the really big episodes towards the end of Season 2, there aren't a lot that feel like, oh, you have to watch them in this exact order. So we'll be jumping around a little bit in the order of Justice League, but sort of countdown to the big Justice League versus Fatal 5 movie, we thought we'd be reviewing Justice League. So once we finish up with Batman Beyond in February, we will be heading off to the world of Justice League.
Yeah, I'm excited to head back there. We dabbled in a little back in December, got our appetites wet, and we're ready to get into some of the greatest hits of the Justice League coming up here.
Definitely.
There are some great episodes that we'll take a look at. Well, I guess that about wraps us up for this week. I'm Cal.
And I'm Liam.
And we will talk to you on the next episode of the DCAU Review.
Bye-bye.